Hi there, this is AWS Restart Lab 280. Lab 280, we're going to talk about firewall and malware prevention. Now I will tell you that this is because these labs were written once upon a time and they're static, and while the consoles constantly update, change language, change words, this one here was a little more difficult than several we've had already. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to steer you around the imperfections in the lab description, and by the end of all this you'll be able to modify a firewall and test it out. Alright, so the 3 bullet points here: update a network firewall, create a firewall rules group, and then verify and test access to a malicious site. We have a demo site to work with right there. So I'm going to start assuming you've already got the lab up and running. You've got your green dot up here, you've got your timer here. Know that if this timer ever closes out and you're not finished, you can just hit start lab again while you're in the middle, and it does nothing more than resets that timer. So I'm going to scroll on down to the beginning. So this here, it says that go to the AWS details button, and what that is the one on the lab. So here's the details button. It's all crunched in here, but it's asking you to copy this URL. So we'll copy, and then we can open it up. So I'm going to go up here, open up a new tab, paste, and it should bring us to a connect. There it is. Now we have our CLI. If we do go back to this page though, there's another way to get to that. So EC2, almost everything's going to go through an EC2 because that is really the definition of a computer. Go to instances, and let's connect to this instance. This is the lab test instance. You can go ahead and mark the checkbox and hit connect. Go to session manager and then connect. And you can see that when it pops up, voila, we have the same access here. So I always like to do a few things when I log in. Do a who am I? There I am. Let's do a pwd to see what directory it drops us into. I'm going to close out the menu on the left. Alright. So now we're going to go down here to the wget command. So what you can do is highlight, copy, paste. Make sure that wget gets in there, otherwise you'll get an error. There you go. It says that permission is denied. You know why? Because, let's see here, change directory, go to my personal directory. There you go. All right, was not in the correct directory. Had to go to my personal directory, and that's what that tilde does. Remember, that's the command to get you to the home directory. Do a little ls. You see that the wget actually downloaded that HTML file. All right, but there's a second file we want to get. So let's highlight it, copy, paste. I'm going to clear the screen, ls. All right, now we have 2 files. Do my long form ls. One more time, password, or pwd, not password, but the print working directory. Go back to the lab instructions. They'll give you an example of what you saw on the main output screen here. So what we did here, we basically reached out to the web using the wget command and just grabbed the file and downloaded it. Yeah, that barking in the background. Everybody say hello to Audrey. Hello, Audrey. Shh. We're working here, girl. Alrighty. She always has a keen sense of hearing. Sometimes I think she hears things that aren't even there. Anyway, here we are. We've gone through and we've downloaded those 2 files because we were allowed to. Now let's set up a firewall to see if we can prevent that happening in the future. Not only for our test, but for a real life scenario as well. So now let's go to the firewall. So here's where the words and the instructions get a little tricky. I'm going to leave the lab instructions up, but I might be jumping around a little bit. So I'm back here. Let's go and find VPC. Remember, if it's not listed here, you can just search VPC and add a star, and that will take it permanently up to your bar. But I'm just going to go ahead and do the VPC click. And I'm going to take the shortcut here that says your VPCs because I want to access the test VPC that is set up here. All right, so there it is, lab VPC. But jumping back over to the instructions, let's go right to network firewall. All right, now there's some things here that are similar wording, firewall policies are 2. Here's network firewall rule groups, and there's also network firewall resource groups. It's important to know the difference. Awful easy to jump from one to the other. So let's go to the firewalls. Let's choose lab firewall. Now remember that you can hide and show this menu to the left. Here we are in lab firewall. I click the button, it does not do anything, so let's go ahead and click lab firewall. We're going to just click that link and take us in. So here, as on number 16, configure the firewall policy. You know what it doesn't tell you to do? Is to click the firewall policy. So we can look here, or we could also click up here, lab firewall policy. So let's go down to stateless default actions. Edit. And choose how to treat fragmented packets. Use the same action for all packets. That's that top one. So they should just highlight in the lab just these 2 words. And then forward to stateful rules group. So we'll tag that one. Don't need to push metrics right now for the lab, but it might be something you want to do for a company you're working for or your own company. Commit that with the save button. So now all forwarded packets to a stateful rule group, and what this does, it kind of puts it in a timeout to give you, via your next task that we're going to create, an isolated area to check to see if there's possible malware, and then keep it in the timeout if it is. All right, so now let's go down here to task 3 on the lab instructions. Create a firewall rule group. All right, so let's open up that menu. Network firewall. Sometimes you can just close these out. That'll keep that closer to the top. Network firewall rule groups. So remember, it's rule group, not resource group. So rule group, click that. And I'd actually done this earlier, so let me delete my previous. That was me going through and finding my path. All right, so create network fire group rule. There's a lot of words, so what we're looking to do is just create rule group. We can use either of these buttons. Create rule group. Starts to get even more tricky. You have to go down to number 23 on the lab instructions where it says Suricata compatible IPS rule. If you look on your console, you can see there's 6 different steps, and the instructions and the steps, they don't flow one-to-one. So we have the stateful rule group. Rule group format. This is where we're going to skip a little bit and hit that suricata. And in this case, it says strict order is recommended, but for suricata, because we're going to have those special rules in 23, we want to actually do action order. Gives you a little more control. All right, so look back. We have stateful, we have suricata, we have action order. Click next. Now this is where you can highlight. Paste your stateful rule group. Description, optional. It's good to put in here everything that you work with. It's good to have a description. Capacity. Let's go 100. Select next. So now we're on step 3 on the console configure rules. So this might look a little ominous. Lots of stuff up here, but let's at least go scroll to the bottom because we recognize that word because it's over here. Go ahead and copy your rules. Paste. I like to expand, make sure it was all formatted correctly. There you go. We're not looking at IP specific, nothing specific, so let's go ahead and hit next. All right. I think we're good here. Hit next. Tags. Another thing I like to do just to get in practice, create special tags. And this might be if you work multiple locations or regions or businesses or office floors or office groups. And I just like to put in here, create my own special key called lab. And then in this case, I'll put 280 in there just for reference. That way, if I'm practicing on my own without a lab protocol, it's going to erase everything that I'm able to search and find everything related to lab 280. And filter it out so I only see that in case I have 100 different labs on a single account. All right, so here we are under review and create. Yeah, let's just scroll down to the bottom. Yep, that's suricata. All that showed in. We're good, we're good, we're good. There's my special tag. I'm going to hit create rule group. You should get a green bar at the top. If you don't get a green bar at the top, you might not have chosen the suricata at the beginning. All right, so there you have it. Stateful rule group. You named it, you created it. So now what we're going to do, we're going to attach that rule group to our network firewall, because right now they're independent. So let's go back in the lab, network firewall. It'd be nice if these stayed closed. All right, network firewall. Let's choose firewalls, and then we're going to actually log into our lab firewall. I say log into, we're going to select it. Now we can't really do anything here, so let's click the lab firewall link, which brings us to this page. Now let's find rule groups. Here we are under firewall policy settings, and we're looking for stateful, not stateless. Stateless, stateless, keep rolling. Stateful, there we go. So stateful, look back at your lab. It says add rule group and add from existing. So stateful, you can see there's nothing here as the 0 indicates. Go to actions, and this is where it doesn't say specifically, but you're going to add unmanaged stateful rule group. Now, if you got here before you created your rule group, you could click here and that'd take you back and then back and forth. But trust me, this is add unmanaged stateful rule group because that's what you created. And once you get here, you can see our stateful rule group that we created. We can check mark that, commit it using the button. Spins up, we get another green bar. You might get in the habit too of, after you acknowledge you've done something correctly, to clear out that bar so it doesn't distract at a later point in time. So what you've done right there in task 4, you've attached that rule group to that specific firewall. And this is going to add extra protection to that firewall on your VPC, because the VPC uses your lab firewall as a firewall. So now let's validate the solution. So we want to get back to the command line. If I come in here, I can see that's still working. Ooh, okay. Remember, this is the other tab that I logged into. So there's the print working directory. And if I go back to my personal directory using the tilde, I can see that this window and this window took me to the same point. One, remember I used the connect on the VPC, and the other one I just used a direct URL from the AWS details page as a shortcut. It's good to be able to know how to do this without having the URL handed to you. So either one of these, just make sure that you are in your home directory. And remember, you are logged in as SSM user. So let's validate the solution. Essentially, we're going to do what we did before. Let's go ahead and highlight this command, drop it in here, and let's see. That's interesting. What happened this time? So what happened is that wget reached out and grabbed this file. It pulled the file to your server, but it put it in a timeout, and it's here awaiting a response like, what do I do with it? We didn't configure that, so this is just going to sit here. Go ahead and hit the Control-C. Control-C, take you back here. Ooh, ls, all right, still have those. Let's go down to the other file. And make sure that you only use these files for testing purposes. You don't want to actually put them into your personal system. There's a second one, same thing. So we're filtering out both of those pieces of malware. Control-C once again. I'm going to hit clear, pwd, ls. All right. So summary of task 5 is just you validated that your firewall and your firewall group are working in harmony to block what you have. So congratulations. Now let's look at what we do to clear these out. You see the command over there. You can type all that out. You can cut and paste, but you can also go here and remove and then start typing the file names here. So remove J star ls. It removed them both. You have to be careful that if you have more files, because you don't want to delete your entire directory, but that's a shortcut to keep from needing to type everything, and even cut and paste gets bothersome sometimes. So there you go. You created your firewall group, you attached them, you tested it for success. So congratulations.